Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dwarven Tavern. This is going to be kind of a brief editorial because it has recently come to my attention that there is a concern for game balance. Yeah, that's everywhere, right? Especially in video games. And we all know my position on crossing over between video games and role-playing games. To me, role-playing games are more of a realistic thing where video games are video games, obviously. I love video games, don't get me wrong. I just don't think that the two should cross over, even though I'm considering something for later for crossing over. But game balance, it doesn't exist. It shouldn't exist in role-playing games because to me role-playing games cross over into reality. It's an alternative to reality, and video games or role-playing games are an extension to reality, and something that doesn't agree with the reality. Now, I know we're talking about magic and sci-fi and all that stuff, but here's the point. In order to maintain game balance, you have to nerf things or buff things that ought not be buffed or nerfed. So in doing so, it's kind of destroying the natural flow of things. In my games, reality is there is no balance. If you get an M60, for instance, in a game, and everybody else only has access to like 22 long rifle single shot pistols, for instance, I'm not gonna nerf the M60 because the whole purpose of warfare is to achieve imbalance in your favor. So the games that I Dungeon Master, that I Rising, the games that I run, they never have any kind of nerf or buff game balance inclusions, because if something is overpowered in your favor, that's fine. If something is overpowered in the enemy's favor, that's fine. And it's the players that have to She just wants to be on camera. It's the players that have to adjust themselves accordingly. There are many a time when soldiers in the war, World War II, World War I, have encountered something that they could not fight, and they had to deal with it. They had to deal with it accordingly or die, and that's how it is. And that's how it was. So if, as a Dungeon Master, you want to give the players a means to deal with whatever overpowered things that they encounter, then that's your prerogative. I don't like certain death scenarios, but they certainly did exist in reality. So it is my contention that you can do that without nerfing the overpowered things for either the player's favor or the antagonist, the monster's favor, or the baddie, the attacker, whatever you want to call it, the antagonist, we'll say, if the characters are protagonists in this scenario. So give them the what's the word I'm looking for? The option or the forewarning that the game, you're not going to nerf something just because they're not strong enough, and you're not going to make other things powerful just because they happen to find an overpowered thing, or they figured out a way to make themselves of great power and be a better dungeon master. Don't be lazy. Game balance is for achieving nerfing and buffing. For game balance is the work of a lazy dungeon master and lazy players, and that might be hard to hear, and you may disagree, and that's fine. You play the game however you want to, which whatever makes you happy, that's the way to do it. But in this case, it is disagreeable to me to make something, for instance, Tavernier Ian just brought to my attention that it's to make flaming arrows is ridiculously difficult in 5e, which is true as far as crafting goes. So why is that? They're doing it because it's a bottleneck, it's a nerf, so you don't just make all of your arrows flaming, so it's harder to get that extra damage. When in reality, you take some cloth, you wrap it around an arrowhead, and you dip it in pine pitch, which is what they make torches with, or you just pour some oil on it and light it, boom, it's done, and you've got a flamer. So that's the difference between nerfing something to keep people from using it and just letting things be the way they be in order to do better things or bigger things. And I completely disagree with that. So if someone, in my campaign, they wanted to make a flaming arrow on the fly, or they wanted to keep a pack of flaming arrows, a quiver of flaming arrows, or arrows that will flame that you can set alight and burn other things. It's a simple thing that they can do in their off time, in their downtime, pretty easily without having to go through this incredible sulfur and bat guano and all that bull crap. Yeah, it's just kind of crazy the silliness that ensues to keep players from becoming overpowered. So consider that when you are running your game, and think of what other things that can happen. What are the consequences? And don't be lazy up here and let the simplicity of bottleneck nerfing tempt you away from the course of realism and fun. So, with that being said, that's my thoughts on game balance on behalf of the whole cast and crew of Dwarven Tavern. I am Dr. Jeff Goins, your host, and we wish for you to want for nothing but adventure. At first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time with another review. Let the